She was just a child when it started, a smile on screen, a secret off it. Raven Symoné had grown up in front of America's eyes, but behind those bright studio lights, something dark and dangerous was happening. For years, the world saw her as the bubbly child star, the one who made people laugh. But what no one knew was that she was living in fear. Fear of the man the world once called America's dad. And now, after decades of silence, she had decided to speak. Not just about herself, but about a truth so big that it could destroy one of the most beloved TV legacies in history. You won't believe what she revealed, because it wasn't just about abuse, it was about something much darker: murder. She said this man, Bill Cosby, didn't just hurt people, he silenced them, he threatened them. And one of those people, according to her, was Malcolm Jamal Warner, the boy America knew as Theo from The Cosby Show. Raven's voice broke when she told the story. She remembered the day Cosby pulled her aside. He didn't shout, he didn't even raise his voice. He just looked at her and said, "If you ever go against me, you'll disappear, just like Malcolm will." At that time, she didn't understand what he meant. She thought it was just a strange thing to say. But then Malcolm was gone. The headline said it was a drowning accident in Costa Rica, a tragic vacation gone wrong. But Raven knew the moment she saw the news, this wasn't just bad luck. She remembered their last conversation on set. Malcolm leaned in, looked her straight in the eyes, and said, "One day, I'm going to tell everything. But first, I need to make sure my family is safe." And then, just like that, he was dead. No witnesses, no proper investigation, just a casket flown home, and a story that felt too clean, too quick, too quiet. Let me tell you, this is how Hollywood buries its secrets. But here is the shocking part. Within hours of Malcolm's death, someone had gone into his iCloud account. The logs showed it clearly. 6 hours after he died, his files were accessed, not from Costa Rica, but from Los Angeles. And the location? Just 2 blocks from a property owned by a shell company connected to one of Cosby's old attorneys. The craziest part, all of Malcolm's encrypted notes, voice recordings, and a journal he called his life insurance disappeared without a trace. But Raven, she had kept her own copies. She remembered strange things from before Malcolm's death. Notes slipped under her dressing room door with nothing written on them. Just blank pages to remind her that they were watching. Conversations she had in private were somehow repeated back to her later. And Cosby, he always seemed to know where she was, what she was doing, and who she was with. Destiny took an unexpected turn the moment Malcolm decided he wasn't going to be silent anymore. Raven believed he had gathered proof of illegal money being moved through Cosby's production company, using the names of former cast members without their permission, and one of those names was hers. The last time Malcolm's voice was heard publicly was through a voicemail Raven kept. He said only one thing before the line went silent: "I'm scared, but I can't stay quiet anymore." Those words haunted her. And then came the call from Cosby himself, just days after Malcolm's death. He didn't ask how she was. He didn't offer condolences. He just said, "Now you understand what happens when people talk." And then he hung up. That was the moment Raven decided she wouldn't run. She wouldn't hide. She was going to collect everything she had, the voicemails, the files, the names, the dates, and she was going to speak. Raven stayed out of the public eye for years after that call, but she wasn't hiding out of fear anymore. She was watching, listening, and quietly building her case. She told no one what she was doing, not even her closest friends. She kept old hard drives in hidden places, used encrypted messages, and recorded conversations without anyone knowing. Every time she heard a rumor or a whisper connected to Malcolm's death, she wrote it down. Every time she found an old file or voicemail, she backed it up twice. She knew one day she would need all of it. Then something unexpected happened. A short, silent clip leaked online, 17 seconds from the NBC archives, labeled corrupted and supposedly lost. It showed Malcolm and Cosby in a heated argument on set. There was no audio, but you could see Cosby's face red with anger, pointing his finger at Malcolm. Malcolm stood his ground for a moment, then turned and walked away. A former set technician later claimed he heard Cosby mutter under his breath, "You talk and you're done." What makes this story different? Just months later, Malcolm was gone. But here is the shocking part. The clip wasn't the only thing that resurfaced. An anonymous whistleblower claimed Malcolm had been keeping a digital journal filled with evidence. Voice memos, scanned contracts, even photos of signed documents that could prove Cosby's production company was funneling money through offshore accounts. One of the biggest names on those contracts, Raven Symoné. According to the whistleblower, Malcolm wanted to expose the fraud and show how the money trail connected back to people who had worked on the show for years. He believed once he went public, others would come forward too. The craziest part was what happened the day after his death. That entire digital journal disappeared. His iCloud, phone, and laptop were all wiped. Data logs showed an IP address in Los Angeles accessing his accounts. Not his wife, not his daughter, and definitely not anyone in Costa Rica. That address was linked to a building owned by a shell company, one that had ties to one of Cosby's attorneys. Coincidence? Or cover-up? Raven didn't think so. And then came something that made the story even darker. In one of Malcolm's old messages to Raven, just 2 weeks before his death, he wrote, "If I go quiet, it wasn't my choice. Tell ICE." At first, she didn't understand, but she later learned ICE meant Ice Cube. Malcolm had reached out to him for help, sharing encrypted files about shady finances and secret deals. Ice Cube knew what it was like to be silenced in the industry, and according to sources, he agreed to help. When Malcolm died, Cube didn't walk away. He started funding a private investigation. Destiny took an unexpected turn again when Cube brought in former FBI agents, cyber experts, and even divers to re-examine the site in Costa Rica where Malcolm was found. He also confirmed he had received an email from Malcolm just before his death. The subject line read, "If something happens to me, tell the truth anyway." The email had only one attachment, a file named RJAL-zip. But when investigators opened it, it was corrupted. The metadata, however, showed it was created on Malcolm's personal MacBook, the same one that went missing after his death. The investigation kept uncovering more pieces, and each one made the picture darker. A distorted voicemail surfaced on an underground podcast. The voice was altered, but experts believed it matched Bill Cosby's speech pattern. The words were cold and deliberate. "This isn't a threat, it's advice. Walk away. Don't let that girl get in your head. This isn't your story to tell." That girl was Raven. It made her realize Malcolm had been preparing to stand beside her, to confirm her claims, to finally pull the mask off the man America thought they knew. 2 days before his death, Malcolm had called Raven. She missed the call, but he left a voicemail she still had. In her live documentary teaser, she played just one sentence from it. "I'm scared, but I can't stay quiet anymore." Then came static and nothing else. That was the last time she heard his voice. For Raven, those words weren't just a cry for help. They were a warning that she had been right all along. As news of Raven's accusations spread, Hollywood went into panic mode. Old emails vanished from archives, social media accounts tied to the Cosby Show cast were scrubbed clean, and lawyers started sending cease and desist letters to Raven. NBC's legal department was also pulled into the mess when a leaked internal memo surfaced. The memo was dated only 3 days after Malcolm's death. Its subject line, "Preemptive Narrative Strategy, Warner Vacation Incident." It wasn't written in grief, it was written like a damage control plan. The document laid out 3 clear instructions: confirm accidental drowning with local authorities, delay all media inquiries, secure an account for all Warner digital assets. Those words, digital assets, sent chills down Raven's spine. It meant they weren't just worried about the story getting out, they were making sure every piece of evidence that could prove otherwise was in their possession. And here's the shocking part. A hotel employee in Costa Rica came forward and claimed someone checked out Malcolm's room early using a master key. The visitor log was redacted, but the signature matched that of an NBC crisis manager. What makes the story different is that every time a new piece of evidence appeared, someone in power tried to erase it. Raven still had old text messages from Malcolm, and one of them sent just days before he left for Costa Rica simply read, "They're watching me. If you hear I drowned, don't believe it." The craziest part was how quickly people who had worked on the show started acting strange. Tempest Bledsoe, the actress who played Vanessa, went live on Instagram for 10 minutes without saying a word. Then she whispered, "Y'all don't know the half of it," and ended the stream. Destiny took an unexpected turn again when Malcolm's mother broke her silence. In a trembling voice, she told the world, "My son didn't drown. He didn't slip. He didn't fall. He was taken." That one sentence hit harder than any lawsuit. It wasn't just grief, it was a declaration of war. And now, with Raven holding on to files, recordings, and names, she knew the fight was far from over. The storm reached its peak when a mysterious envelope arrived at Raven's apartment, slid under her door with no return address. Inside was a small USB drive and a single note written in shaky handwriting. "He trusted you. Finish what he started." Raven plugged it into her laptop, and what she saw made her heart pound. There were hidden camera clips, grainy but clear enough, showing Malcolm in what looked like a private hotel meeting room. He wasn't alone. Two men in suits sat across from him, one holding a folder, the other speaking in low, threatening tones. Malcolm's voice trembled as he said, "I can't keep lying for you. I'm done." The video cut abruptly after one of the men leaned forward and whispered something that made Malcolm's face go pale. Raven barely had time to process the footage before her phone rang from a blocked number. The voice on the other end was calm, almost rehearsed. "That drive is the last mistake you'll make if you keep pushing." Then the line went dead. That was when Raven realized that they weren't trying to scare her into silence anymore. They were warning her that she was next. Within hours, strange things started happening. Her email locked her out with suspicious activity warnings, her social media pages began disappearing, and even her bank account showed withdrawals she didn't make. Friends started distancing themselves, saying they couldn't risk being involved. It was as if a shadow had crept over her entire life, one that followed her every step. But here's the part no one expected. Before Malcolm's death, he had mailed a package to an old childhood friend who lived in Chicago. That friend, after seeing all the headlines, decided to open it. Inside were pages of handwritten notes, names of people in high places, dates, payment amounts, and coded messages about keeping the public asleep. It was everything Malcolm had been working on, a blueprint of a scandal so deep it could ruin legacies, shatter careers, and possibly reopen old criminal cases. Raven flew to Chicago under the radar, meeting the friend in a small, dimly lit cafe. They went through the files for hours, and the deeper they read, the more they understood why Malcolm had been targeted. This wasn't just about one man's dark past. It was about a network that had been protecting him for decades, a network that Malcolm had finally decided to expose. And just when Raven thought she had all the pieces, she received one last anonymous message. "You think this ends with Malcolm? It started long before him, and it won't stop with you." The screen went black, and for a moment, Raven just sat there, staring into the dark, realizing the fight ahead was bigger than she ever imagined. But in her eyes, there was no fear anymore, only fire. Malcolm's story would not be buried, not this time.